In the next steps, we will see how to read it, how to edit it. But right now, let us now get started with database insert of form data. So for the objective of this tutorial, what we will do is we will create a input text box. There will be a submit button. When the user types something and clicks this submit button, the request will go to the server, and there this data, whatever is typed here, will be saved into the database. So this is the simple thing that we are going to do. But before we actually carry, let me tell you the steps that we will always need in such cases. First of all, you should decide on your database, the database that you are going to use. If you see the previous tutorial, there we have already decided about using SQLite as our database because it is the simplest database, and we have also added the NuGet package to our project. So we have first of all, our decision is about the database. If it's suppose if we want to change the database tomorrow, we want to use SQL Server or something else, we will add the appropriate NuGet package, and we will make small changes to the connection string that we will see, where we will specify that connection string. And this point I have already discussed in the previous tutorial also. So right now, our first decision is about the SQLite database, and for which our NuGet package is in place. The next step, this step 2 that we will need. This step 2 is to decide on what exactly we are going to store in our database. Our data has the smallest unit of our data is called a table. This we already know from RDBMS. A table in our database, a table in our physical database, it maps directly to a C# model class. So once we have decided about the data to be stored, the structure of the table, then we will create a model in C#, a model class in C# to parallel to map to the table that we expect to exist in our database. Now here, in the current case, in the current project, we have made the things deliberately simple, and we have only got one text box. So we expect our model class to include just one property, any string property, and this is the only property that we will need in our model class. But there is a requirement of entity framework. There is a requirement of entity framework that each of your model classes, it should have a primary key also. So if you want to store this item of data, if this item is not the primary key, then you will have to add a primary key to your model. This primary key will automatically map to the table in your database. Now let me explain how is this primary key specified. Suppose this is your model class. Inside this model class, you will write your primary key as ID, give it a name as ID, or this is one possibility, or you can give any readable name. Let us say you write customer, then append ID to that, ID after your name. Either this, or if you do this or this, then EF core will automatically make it as primary key. But let us say you do not want to use this ID, then you can write any other name. Let us say I write customer, then it should be marked as key attribute. This key will automatically make it a primary key. So every model of yours, it should contain a key, primary key with the key attribute or ID or customer ID. But as a good measure, I always mark it as key so that I myself know that it will be key. In case some refactoring or something else is done tomorrow, my things do not change. So with this in place, this is our first story that we have to do. After that, we will move to adding the DB context. But let me first of all complete this stage for you so that at least we are Up to this point we are with us. Now this is the project that I have already created, and in this I will explain the various parts, so that is much better. Now as a good practice, when you want to add a model class, this class should always be placed in a folder called models. This is a good practice, although this is not compulsory, but it is a good practice. It makes your code readable. So what we will do is, we will go to the solution explorer. Don't worry about this project complexity, it is nothing there. I'll explain all the steps. Create a models folder, and inside we have created a model called product. So this product, I'll show you what I have written in this project. Double click to open it, and these using directives, these namespaces, you should come back to check in case you find some